What if the Ark of the Covenant wasn't just a golden chest holding the 10 Commandments? What if it was something far more powerful? So powerful, in fact, that its true purpose had to be hidden in myth, cloaked in ritual, and buried beneath layers of doctrine. What if this sacred object was not a mere religious artifact, but a technology, ancient and advanced, designed to bridge 2 realms? A device capable of interdimensional communication, channeling frequencies from the spiritual into the material, and acting as a gateway between the seen and the unseen? For centuries, we've been told it was a symbol, a relic. But today, we'll rip the veil off everything we thought we knew about the Ark of the Covenant. Welcome to the channel where we uncover the hidden, the profound, and the things no one dares to talk about. If you're ready to see through the veil and discover what's been buried beneath centuries of silence, buckle up, like and subscribe, and let's go deeper. To most, the Ark of the Covenant is exactly what Sunday school told us it was: a wooden chest overlaid with gold, housing the tablets of the law, guarded by 2 cherubim with outstretched wings. It was kept in the Holy of Holies, untouchable, sacred, hidden behind the veil in the tabernacle and, later, the temple. Only the high priest could approach it, and even then, only once a year. On the surface, it was a vessel of reverence, of law, of divine presence. But what if that's just the surface tension on a sea of secrets? In the unseen realm, just beyond the veil, there are structures that mirror the material, but operate on a level that defies our physics. The Ark wasn't merely symbolic, it was functional. It wasn't just holy, it was alive with energy, humming with invisible currents. When the Ark moved, the ground trembled. When it was lifted, the atmosphere changed. When someone touched it uninvited, they died instantly. These aren't metaphors. They're the echoes of something deeper. The Hebrew word for ark is Aaron, but when paired with of the covenant, it becomes a symbol of agreement, a contract not just between God and man, but between dimensions. The Holy of Holies was more than a room. It was a controlled chamber where heaven brushed the edges of earth. The ark sat in the center like a circuit node, a divine terminal through which God could speak, move, and manifest. Inside that chamber, reality was different. Time slowed. Voices whispered through silence. And the veil wasn't just fabric, it was a barrier between 2 realms. This wasn't superstition, it was design. Now, imagine this. In the invisible space above the mercy seat, the cover of the ark where the 2 cherubim faced each other, there was said to dwell the Shekinah. Not just a light, but a manifest presence. Electric, intelligent, intentional. This presence wasn't passive. It listened. It watched. It responded. To the trained priests, the air was charged with divine tension. You could feel the boundaries of another world pressing in, as though an eye was watching from behind the veil of matter. And what guarded that space? Cherubim? Yes, but not as Renaissance art would depict. These weren't chubby infants with wings. They were multi-faced winged entities, described in Ezekiel as wheels within wheels, covered in eyes. They were beings of pure purpose, stationed as gatekeepers of dimensional boundaries. Why such guardians? Unless the ark wasn't just a box, but a gateway. Why the severe consequences for improper access, unless unauthorized entry threatened dimensional integrity? What if these entities weren't merely decorative ideas, but active enforcers of cosmic law? When you stood before the ark, you stood on a threshold, not just between inner and outer courts, but between worlds. And the ark? It was the interface. Let's dive into the deeper mechanism, the true function of the Ark of the Covenant. Ancient texts describe how Moses would enter the tent of meeting and speak with God face to face as a man speaks with his friend. But here's the overlooked detail. The voice came from between the cherubim above the ark. It wasn't just spiritual, it was localized. The ark functioned as a communication device, a divine transmitter and receiver. When you examine the descriptions in Exodus, something startling emerges. Gold overlays, acacia wood core. Specific cubit dimensions. Not arbitrary. Gold is one of the most electrically conductive materials known, perfect for channeling energy. The wood core, lightweight and insulating. The cherubim on top? Not just decoration. They resemble antennae angled toward the center, creating a resonant chamber. Ancient rabbis and modern theorists alike have speculated, was the ark generating some kind of frequency, a frequency tuned to the voice of the divine? Think about this. When Joshua led Israel across the Jordan, the priests carrying the ark stepped into the water, and the river split. Not after they prayed, not after they fasted, after the ark moved. Why? Because the ark was more than symbolic. It was operational. In that moment, it emitted something, an energy, a command, an alignment with unseen laws that governed matter. The split wasn't magic. It was obedient physics responding to a supernatural frequency. Later, when the Philistines captured the ark, disaster followed them. Their idols fell, their people became afflicted with tumors. Again, no Israelite prayers, no rituals, just the presence of the ark in enemy territory. This is the secret. The ark did not need human permission to operate. It was programmed by divine intelligence to respond to alignment or defiance. And inside, not just tablets of stone. Hebrews 9:4 reveals it also held a golden jar of manna, a biological sample of a supernatural food source, Aaron's rod that budded, a living artifact that defied death, and, of course, the stone tablets, etched not by man, but by the finger of God. These weren't just symbols. They were samples, interfaces, witnesses, keys. Each item represented an elemental interaction, provision beyond nature, life from death, law beyond legislation. Together, they formed a triune circuit inside the ark, linking heaven's power, heaven's sustenance, and heaven's order. When aligned, the ark became an interdimensional relay, not merely storing God's presence but transmitting it. But here's where it gets deeper. Many overlook the fact that in most of the ark's appearances it doesn't do anything loud. It doesn't explode. It doesn't flash. It sits. Yet nations fall before it. Walls collapse in its presence. A man dies just for touching it. Why? Because in the realm behind the veil, power doesn't need to shout. It doesn't need to act in haste. It radiates. The ark's silence was not absence. It was pressure. The kind of pressure that cracks stones, shifts timelines, and rewrites destinies. Angels were not frantically moving around it. They stood watch, still, silent, and poised. Because in that stillness, commands were being executed that no human ear could hear. The ark did not contain God. It was the point on earth where heaven touched down. A cosmic console in a terrestrial tent. Uriel, if present, would have stood not as a protector, but as a technician of realms, ensuring the flow of revelation remained unbroken. Michael would not unsheath his sword unless that flow was threatened, because their power was not in noise or spectacle, it was in precision. And so the ark waited, until alignment came, until obedience triggered its response, until someone, somewhere, stepped into the resonance of its divine frequency. Now, imagine this. Centuries later, the ark vanishes. Gone. No record of its destruction. No mention of its removal from the temple when Babylon invaded Jerusalem. It simply disappears. Why? Because perhaps its mission had shifted. Or maybe, just maybe, its very nature demanded obscurity. A retreat into the unseen once its work in the visible realm was complete. But that doesn't mean its influence ended. The ark was never just a relic. It was a protocol, a template, a touchpoint between dimensions that would later be echoed in the life of Christ himself. When Jesus said, "Destroy this temple, and I will raise it again in 3 days," he wasn't just referring to his body. He was implying that the true ark, the real meeting place between heaven and earth, was no longer a box of gold, but a man, a living ark. Inside him dwelt the law, the Word made flesh, the manna, the bread of heaven, and the budding rod, the resurrection and the life. He was, in essence, a mobile ark, moving between dimensions, commanding storms, walking through walls, disappearing from sight, transfiguring into light. And when he died, the veil in the temple was torn. Not just a curtain, a dimensional membrane ripped open. And suddenly, the old chamber, the one where the Ark used to rest, was obsolete. The interface had shifted. The frequency had changed bands. The power had moved into human vessels. And here's the kicker. According to Revelation 11:19, the Ark appears again, but not on earth. John sees the temple of God in heaven opened, and the Ark of his covenant was seen within his temple. So where did it go? It never left. It ascended, not as a box, but as a blueprint, a frequency, a connection point now embedded in the hearts of those aligned. Its impact was never about gold or cherubim. It was about creating a link, and that link still pulses, still hums in the unseen. And this is where the ripples begin. The Ark, though hidden, left a trail of resonance. You can feel it in moments of unexplainable clarity, in supernatural provision, in sudden deliverance, in the silence before a breakthrough, when everything seems quiet, but you know something is moving behind the veil. You see, Sissy, every instance in Scripture where the Ark played a role, it was setting a precedent. It was programming the matrix, so to speak, establishing patterns in the spiritual world that still echo today. When a believer speaks truth in silence, when a hidden prayer shifts an entire situation, when inexplicable peace descends in chaos, the Ark is echoing. Because its function was not to be worshipped, it was to teach us how to become interfaces ourselves. That's the true unveiling. Not just that the Ark is interdimensional, but that so are you. You were never just flesh. You were made with resonance. You were crafted to carry frequencies not of this world. You were designed to be a living temple, with the blueprint of the Ark in your spirit, ready to receive, transmit, and bridge heaven and earth. The gold? That's your refined character. The wood? Your humanity. The contents? Your obedience, your sustenance, your life-giving authority. You are not just walking through life. You are carrying a hidden technology of spirit, ancient, alive, and waiting to be activated. And the moment you step in alignment with it, rivers will part. So now we return to the question, what was the Ark of the Covenant? Really? Not just a relic, not merely a container, but a cosmic interface, built to bridge realms, host frequencies, and shift destinies. It was an echo of Eden, a mobile mountain, a burning bush in a box, a technological sanctum designed by divine intelligence, functioning within laws and dimensions far beyond our current understanding. But the deeper truth, the hidden revelation, is this. The Ark didn't disappear. It multiplied. In every heart aligned with heaven, in every act of divine obedience, in every moment where silence carries more weight than sound, the essence of the Ark still moves. When you choose truth instead of convenience, when you stay still while storms rage around you, when you carry a word from heaven into a broken world, you become what the Ark was always meant to represent, a collision point between realms. You don't need to build an Ark, you are one. You were never meant to just survive this world. You were meant to transmit something from beyond it. So the next time you feel like nothing is happening, like your prayers are unanswered, your presence unacknowledged, remember, the Ark didn't shout. It sat, and nations trembled. There is power in your silence. There is purpose in your positioning. There is frequency in your faithfulness. Heaven still moves through what the world ignores, and the unseen is still governing the seen. If this resonated with you, if something inside stirred when you heard about divine frequencies, hidden technology, and your unseen potential, then you're not here by accident. Drop a comment below. What if the Ark's true function wasn't to be found, but to be unlocked within us? We want to hear your thoughts, your theories, your experiences with moments where the unseen felt more real than the visible. And if you're hungry for more, we've barely scratched the surface. What if we told you the tabernacle was designed as a star map? Or that the veil in the temple wasn't just fabric, but a coded gateway to dimensions? It's coming. So make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. This is more than content. This is revelation, and revelation is what rewrites reality. Until next time, remember, the veil is thinner than you think, and sometimes all it takes to part a river is for you to take one step forward, carrying what cannot be seen.